We're camping this week at Camp Aspen Grove. This is a beautiful spot in Provo Canyon up the Alpine Loop, which is not far from where we live. Very beautiful area. We get to be here the whole week with Denae's family, sort of a reunion thing. Very exciting, very fun. It's a great break for everyone. They do a great job with the kids. But while I'm here, I'm hoping to get some vlogs done and out of the way. I started recording a bunch the last couple of weeks, but I just have not had a second, no time at all to finish those vlogs. So I'm gonna try to do that during downtime the coming week. First thing I wanna do is bust out this really quick video about the differences between the X-T2 and the X-T20. Now, this is not gonna be a comprehensive review because that's been done by some awesome vloggers, and I'll link below to a couple of those that are very comprehensive, and they do a good job of kind of comparing and contrasting. I'm just going to tell you my perspective in kind of real life situations, none of the spec differences, because really on paper they're very similar, and the power, the engine that drives the X-T2 is in the X-T20. Now, I said in my last video that if the X-T20 had come out before the X-T2, I probably would have gotten the X-T20, and I probably would have been happy with not upgrading. But that was before I'd shot with it for 3 days. Now that I have, I don't feel that way anymore. Now, I want to be clear, that's not because I don't think it's an excellent camera and an amazing value. I really do think that that is one of the best values for a camera, bang for your buck, anywhere. So the X-T20, if you're hesitating, you're comparing it between that and any other camera, and you do a lot of street portraiture, lifestyle, even studio, the types of stuff you see us doing in our vlog, I mean, you're just not going to go wrong with that camera. It's going to serve you very well. I can't say enough great things about it. Especially, again, bang for your buck. But if I could go back and save some money by getting the X-T20 instead of the X-T2, would I now? And the answer is probably not. And I'll tell you just a few reasons why. Again, this isn't exhaustive. Go elsewhere to find the thorough comparisons. But this will give you my perspective as a real life, me shooting both and deciding what I think. Several people have asked in the comments if it bothers me that the X-T20 is, top heavy when you've got a big lens on there. For instance, I've shot with the 90 millimeter, which is not a small lens for the Fuji system, and the 50 to 140 on there. And so people have asked, well, does it bug you? And to be honest, I hadn't even thought of it until someone mentioned that. But that's partially because I like shooting with old, heavy, vintage lenses on small micro four thirds cameras. I'm used to that, and that's never bothered me either. For some reason, some people get bothered by that. Beyond that, I mean, when I hold my Fuji lenses and bodies, I've always got one hand on the lens to manipulate the aperture, so it's pretty much resting on that left hand, so it doesn't bother me. What does bother me is the fact that the OVF in the X-T20 is smaller, and I wear glasses. And when I put that OVF up next to my eye against that glass, in the X-T2 it's so big, I can see all the way around the frame without any problems. It's a joy to use that. But with the X-T20, that's not the case. It's smaller, and I don't see my frame lines. That's the one problem with the X-T20 as opposed to the X-T2, and it's a big enough difference that it would cause me to hesitate. The next thing, no dedicated ISO dial. Now, this isn't the end of the world because, as many have pointed out, you can and should set the dials. Probably I set the back dial, but some say the front to be the ISO. The problem with the front is that I'm so used to that the pancake lens having no aperture ring on the lens, and a few of the lenses that do that. I'm so used to manipulating the aperture on the front dial that I didn't want to put ISO up there, so I put it on the back. But it's a problem in that it gets bumped super easy. It's not lockable, and I ended up moving it away from the dial and changing it to the function button. So that's kind of where I ended, where I decided it was going to serve me best. The problem there is that that's a two-step function then, with pressing the function button and then moving the ISO. It's really not an option in my mind to keep the ISO in the quick menu only. The problem with keeping it in the quick menu is that you can't actually see the scene in front of you as you change the ISO, and that's valuable and so that you can see your levels change. Now, the other problem I have with it is that it's not weather sealed, and that's a pretty big deal for me. I don't like to be limited by the weather. Also, I don't think it's advisable to use it professionally in times where you're never going to get to shoot back, for instance, weddings in particular, or events. And that's because of the dual card slot. And when I made that comment that I probably would have bought the X-T20 and been fine, I kind of forgot about that fact, but that's going to also be a deal breaker for me. But aside from those things, I mean, if you're not doing a lot of studio or wedding, and if you don't wear glasses, I mean, maybe that's the camera for you, and you're maybe not going to miss out on the things that the X-T2 will bring you. So let's talk focus point selection, because for me, this is the biggest problem with the X-T20. The X-T2 has a joystick, of course, and you know, it's little, it's not amazing. When I compare it to the GH5, for instance, or the Nikon D500, this joystick's, it feels a little small. Having said that, it works great for changing the focus points. The X-T20, however, does not have a joystick. Now, that shouldn't be a problem because there's a touch screen, but here's the problem. When your eye is up to that optical viewfinder, you can't use the touch screen to change focus. To me, that's a big problem. And I'm a little spoiled because I was able to experience the Canon M5, which has an amazing experience when it comes to changing the focus point by touch. Just really awesome, and I did a review on that camera if you'd like to watch it. It makes me like that experience slightly better than the X-T20, even though virtually everything else, including lenses and every other experience, is better on the X-T20. So what you pretty much have to do if you want to be able to control those focus points with the OVF is you're going to want to go into the selector button setting and change it to focus area. That will enable you to use those arrow buttons to change the focus points, and that's I'm actually not sure why it doesn't just ship with that by default. So that's an annoying thing on the X-T20 that adds to the deal breaker factor for me. So having said all that, I do want to say that I love the X-T20. It's an amazing camera, again, for the value. I feel like it's an amazing price for other cameras I've tried in that ballpark. It puts them to shame in so many ways by virtue of the Fuji X system. In summary, would I use this professionally? Yeah. Maybe not, in a wedding situation where I need the dual card slot. Maybe not rely on it when I need something in harsh weather. If those two things are not a concern to you, I think it's probably a great option, those other small usability concerns aside. So I do want to give a big thanks to the Fuji Professional Services for making this video possible by sending me the X-T20 to try out. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Anybody who's watching that needs Fuji gear, wants to rent it out, wants to try it first, I'd totally recommend giving them a try. It's affordable, they're easy to work with, the packaging's easy to use, it's easy to get the gear, easy to send it back. In fact, easier than any other service I've tried, and we've used a lot of rental services. So great job, Fuji Professional Services. And I will add to that, I'm not being paid by Fuji, I'm not sponsored by them, but I will add that that is one reason I choose Fuji over Sony. The interactions I've had with customer service when I've sent things back for repair, I damaged my 50-140 lens skiing, totally busted it. It snapped off of my X-T20. It was a sad day, but sent that back into repair and was able to get it back fairly quickly with great response time from them and great service. I also had trouble with my X100S. They gave me a new X100T, with only a couple $100 extra, and that was great. So, you know, I have had great interactions with Fuji at the professional level, and that's not something you get out of Sony, at least not yet. So that's one reason I choose them over Sony. Not to say that anything wrong with Sony gear, it's great, but it's nice to know that you've got a brand who has your back. So I'm dishing out the love to Fuji, but again, I'm not paid by them. I just like them a lot. Anyway, that's all I want to say about these two cameras for now. I hope you'll stay tuned, because soon I'll be talking about some portrait lens shootout stuff. Hopefully I'll have some time here at the camp to also make that video. So look for that soon. Bye.
Bye.